Okay, here is a simple Excel spreadsheet. And if we wanted to create a graph on this, we could select the data that we wanted to. And then, of course, in the insert, you can create a chart. And I'm just going to pick a straightforward column chart, two-dimensional column chart. And you can create charts in PowerPoint. You can create charts in Word if you want to, but mostly we use charts in Excel and in PowerPoint. And one of the things you can always do is expand or reduce the range of what the chart is showing you. Okay, and there's some relatively new items in the 2016 version of the charting. And one of the things that you can do, if I switch the row and column so that my totals is by far the largest of the items here, and I wanted to do a combo chart where the totals is on a different axis, is scaled on a different axis, because otherwise the axis obviously gets very large and the other bars are not, or columns don't show too well. Now, we had ways of doing this with older versions, but they were a little bit more complicated. So now, if you say change the chart type, and you go down and look at all the different chart types, on the bottom is something called combo. And if I click on the combo, what it asks you to do is indicate how you want each one to appear. So I still want the fourth quarter to also be a column chart, but I want the totals to be either a line or an area, would both be good. And so that still, however, is using one scaled axis. So if I indicate I want a secondary axis for that, now I get the kind of combo chart that you probably are interested in. So this would be the axis for the totals, and this is the axis for the other items. So you can see how one is relative to the other. And they also give you in this version little shortcut ways to do certain things on the charts, which you could always do here by adding elements, but here we can get them over here. So we'd want to add axis titles. So we could put on that this was the totals and this was the, the standard, the quarters or whatever. And we can also put on data labels of various types, all kinds of different places, placement, and so forth, and which we always had availability to do. We can also put on error bars and trend lines and so forth. So those are not necessarily new items. Here you have a way of picking some styles, really, to stylize the whole thing. And we have, or designs, whatever you want to call them. And here we have those designs up here as well. Well, no, can't seem to close this off. So, okay. So I could also, pick those same things from up there. But what is a little different and makes things a little bit easier is we have a filter now here, and instead of having to go back in and reselecting data, I can simply say, no, I don't want to include quarter one, and when I apply that, quarter one is gone. Or no, I want to include quarter one, but I don't want to see the last fiscal year, I only want to see the current and the projected, and then I'm seeing that. So it makes it very easy to do really a filtering. And if I decide I don't want to see the totals on here, you just have to click apply and you've got that back, and I'll put them back on and so forth. So that's a little bit of a new item. Now, what if I wanted to take this chart in Excel and put it into PowerPoint? I could copy it. I have it selected. I'm going to copy it. I have a PowerPoint presentation here. I'm just going to add a new slide that just has a title, and I'm just going to right click. Now, what's important here for the graphics for purposes, do you want to use your destination theme or your source theme? That's not so important, but also, do you want to embed this spreadsheet or do you want to link it? So if you link it, whatever you do to your Excel chart will also show here. If you embed it, it will allow you to make changes within an Excel spreadsheet, but it won't be that file. So I'm going to do embedding, and I'm going to make this a little larger so we can see what we're doing. And so here's the same chart, and with the same capabilities, because the charting program is really the same in both. But if I wanted to modify things, I have a formatting ribbon that comes up, a tab on the ribbon, a contextual tab, and I also have the design tab. So I have the very same things. If I wanted to edit the data, I can edit the data in Excel, but it's just an Excel spreadsheet. It's not the particular, it's chart in Microsoft PowerPoint-Excel. It's not the original file. It's just allowing you to use Excel capabilities to do that. Okay. So I don't need to do that. I just wanted to demonstrate it. So here we have the original. I think I wound up closing the PowerPoint. No. Okay. So I'm going to go back to the PowerPoint chart because I want to point out some things that are really only PowerPoint capability, and that is animation. So if I have a chart here, and I would like, when I show my PowerPoint slideshow, I want it to have a little more pizzazz than just pop it up on the screen, I can go to animation, and I can say I want it to fly in. And when I click my slideshow, whoops, okay, that didn't exactly do what I wanted it to do. I did say fly in, there it is, okay. And so when I click on the slideshow, that's what it's, when I hit my clicker, it's going to slide in, okay. So that's great. And it gives you a little more, and you have some effect options, so you can have it slide in from the left, the right, the bottom, the side, you know, that sort of thing. But what a lot of people don't realize is that you can animate not just the whole chart, but you can animate the parts of the chart to make it even more dramatic. So if I open up the animation pane, okay, and I click, this is after I animate the chart, and then I click in this drop down, and I can say I'd like to change some of the effect options. So I can change timing and so forth, but chart animation comes up if I am animating a chart. And right now it's doing it all as one object. But I can say I want to do it by series. And that's what it's going to do. It's going to pop in one series at a time. And I can set the timing, of course. Or I can go to chart animation again, and I can say by category. And if I take out the secondary axis, you know, the totals, which was on a secondary axis, then I can even tell it in the animation, chart animation, that I can do it by each element in a series or each element in a category. And so it'll do each column separately, either by category or by series. It won't do that if you have it as a two-axis, you know, combo chart. That's one thing you can't do yet, maybe the next version. So those kinds of things can obviously only happen in PowerPoint because it has the animation. And as I'm sure you know, in PowerPoint, you also have, I'm going to put this view into slide sorter, so we're seeing lots of them. And you also have a way to do transitions, which allow you to set a way that each slide comes in, and you certainly wouldn't do each one differently as I'm doing here, but I'm just trying to show you, I'm going to show you some of the more dramatic ones. Okay, so that was the vortex, and we also have honeycomb. It's kind of a dramatic way to, and we also have, there's one that has curtains pulling aside, which I think is very clever, which I can't find right now. Curtains, here it is. So look at this, the curtains actually fly. So if you did this, you'd probably drive your audience crazy if you had all these different ones. But what might be interesting is to, for instance, use this gallery one on all of them, which we could easily do by selecting all, Control A, and then saying I said gallery, now I have to find it again, gallery. And what you can do, however, is to change the options, the effect options of that on let's say every other one, you could say from the right, and then the others from the left, the evens from the right, the odd slides from the left. And once you've put on a transition, you see the little star on there. So that's one of the things that you can do. Another thing that you can do, I'm going to select, okay, this one is grouped, and I want to ungroup it for my purpose. Okay, so it's grouped to have all those things together. Okay, so another thing that's interesting is if you select an object, it could be any object, a picture, something you drew, whatever, and you can modify that object with, I'm not finding something here, format, shapes, okay, shapes, and nope, I'm looking for motion paths, and I'm not finding it. Where is that? Okay, it should be in here. Shape effects, that's what I'm looking for. Okay, no. No. Okay, I'll have to come back to that. Somehow it's not resonating with me. I can't find it. You can actually, oh, because it's got to be under animation. Okay, it's under animation, duh, because it's moving, and I forgot. Okay, so you can go down and you can do all of these fly in and float in and swivel and all of that, but what I'm looking for is motion paths. So I can actually select and have that have a path like a crescent moon. All right, and I can have another one do another motion path that looks like a curvy circle thing, just to show you. And and each one of those can be set up with timing and so forth. And if I were to run the slideshow from here, and I didn't put any timing, so it's on a click. So there's the first motion path, and here's the second one. So you can have things moving in whatever direction and path that you like. Okay. So those things are obviously PowerPoint. Here's another PowerPoint item that I want to illustrate. And here's a couple of shapes. And if I were to select more than one, I'll select two at first. And if I go to the format shapes, there's something called merge shapes. And this is relatively new in the latest version. And so you can have a union of the two shapes. You can combine the two shapes and show the overlap, fragment where they intersect, and subtract one of them, and so forth. So it's pretty interesting. If I select the third one as well, let's see how that changes things. So that would union all of them, or show the combination, fragments. Ooh, they don't intersect, so well, they do, and that's subtracting. So I guess it depends on which one you pick first as to which one it's going to subtract and so forth. So it would take a little playing with if you wanted to get a specific effect out of that, but it's pretty interesting that you can. And this is, as I said, a relatively new feature and only in PowerPoint. So let's look at something else, a feature that you can use in any of the Microsoft Office products, and that's called Smart Art. And so if you have something that's bulleted, and you select that bulleted text box, you can then go into just in the Home tab in the paragraph area in PowerPoint and say, convert this to Smart Art. And because this is a bulleted list, it's showing you, for the most part, list things. And if I just point to some of them, you'll see you can make your list a lot more dramatic than just having bulleted points. So that would be the idea. So let's say I choose, I don't know, this one, and I'm going to put some kind of picture in the other thing. So that's interesting, and that's Smart Art. And you can add another one. You can add more to it, and if you want to, you can type right into this area. I mean, I could, delete or add stuff there, or I can click here and open up a box that allows me to add more. So if I enter at the bottom, it's going to put another bulleted area, another picture. Once I've created, I'll get rid of that one. Once I've created the Smart Art, I can go and change the layout. So if I decide that's better, or that's better, or that's better, whatever, I can modify it in a lot of different ways. So I changed it to something else. So that was how we were able to take some bulleted text and turn it into Smart Art, which you could do in Word as well. I don't think you can do it in Excel. But if you wanted to create some Smart Art anew, I'm just going to insert a new slide. And I'm going to pick one that says title and content. And one of the content items you can add is Smart Art. Or I could have just done a blank slide and said insert Smart Art. So either way. So if I go to Smart Art and I'm starting from scratch without previous text there, I can say which type of Smart Art I want. So those are the list choices. Then there's process, cycle, hierarchy. So if I wanted to create like a little org chart, I could say that. And I could say Sue, who's president. And then I could say Jim, who's the assistant. And I could say here, Joan, VP sales, and so forth. And if I wanted to add another VP, depending upon where I wanted to put that, I could say add a shape before or after. And if I wanted to add people who worked under that person, then I would say add a shape below. Okay, and you can do all sorts of things with those, with changing colors and design kind of stuff. And you can also change lots of different hierarchical patterns that you can choose, different features, and of course changing colors of individual things, and there's formatting stuff, fill the shapes, and so forth. So that's one choice. If I go to insert another new slide, this time I'll take one title only, and I'll say I want to insert Smart Art. And let's say I want to do a process, and I decide this would look good. And I say OK. So I'd say in the first one, let's say I'm saying I'm going to plan. And in the second one, I'm going to create. And in the third one, I'm going to gather my tools. And then I want to add another one. So I'm going to do this. And I'm going to say implement. And notice how it's making everything fit, and so forth. And so I have that choice, and I can modify whatever look. I can change the colors. I can even change it to a different process choice. Well, I can't see it when that's on there, can we? But let's say I do this one. So I can change it to different things. So that's something that's Smart Art, which if you're in Word, just to show you, you could do Insert Smart Art, and you have exactly the same choices. So you can do that in Word as well. And the other thing I wanted to talk about is the ability to pop up things on your screen, and let's say from the internet. It doesn't have to be from the internet, but it could, frequently is, something from the internet, and you want to take a piece of that and incorporate it into something that you're doing. So let's say I want to incorporate it into this slide, and I had something on the internet. Let me find something of interest. Hello, let's say homes. So I want to take a picture of a particular, which it's not finding. Okay, this is good enough. So, okay, let's say I'm in my PowerPoint. I just want to take this picture. So I'm in my PowerPoint presentation, and I can go to Insert, and there's something called Screenshot. And it has to be something that you have opened up on your screen. Oh, I have too many things opened up on my screen, so I need to close them down. Okay. This should be okay because it's minimized, right? Okay, let's try that again. Screenshot, yeah, and screen. Why is it going to the Excel? That shouldn't, because I thought I had it minimized, but I'm going to close it. That's all. Now it's not going to have any choice but show me this, and it's going to gray it out, and then I am able to, let's say I need this. So I'm able to drag around the item I want, and there it is. And so it gives me that piece to incorporate into whatever program I'm working on. All the Microsoft Office programs have this capability, so it's frequently handy when you're sending an email and you want to pop in a picture of something, or take a piece of your Excel spreadsheet. It's just like taking a picture of it and putting it in here. You're not saving it as a file or anything. So that is a Microsoft Office function, and you have that capability, okay, to insert screenshot on all of the Microsoft Office products. The other possibility for doing a similar thing, and the screenshot does give you lots of choices for modifying, because you have all of your artistic features that you have here in terms of color and picture quality and artistic effects and stuff like that. Something that lets you take a picture, and this is a Microsoft Office, I'm sorry, this is a Windows accessory. It's called the snip, if you go snipping tool. So if you go and indicate you want the snipping tool, but I need it to be in my picture. Okay, so you can keep it on your desktop if you want, or you can just search for it each time you want it. And so what you can do then is say I want to create a new snip, and then you could do the same thing. You could make that as a snip. The difference here is, well, it's a Windows function instead of an Office function, but also what you have to do is save this. So if you say this is a new snip, and you would say save as, and you can save it in a JPEG or in a GIF format, or this, PNG, for several different formats. So you'd have to save it actually onto your drive somewhere, and then you could paste it wherever you wanted. So that's another feature that's you can use in Microsoft Office programs, but you can also use it in any other program because it's a Windows function. Okay, so I don't want to save this, so I'm just going to say no, and I'm going to close out of that. So these are some of the graphics that you can use while you're working in your Microsoft Office programs, and I hope that will be helpful making your programs a little bit more interesting. So next month we're going to do a Microsoft, we'll do a webinar on Excel arrays. So I look forward to seeing you then.